Happy Tuesday. My name is Arabella and I'm here with Summer. Hi, Summer.
Going. Excited to be here.
Yeah, we're so excited to have you. Thank you guys so much for tuning in to Adobe Live again. We have an awesome photo editing stream, day one, and we've got day two tomorrow. But hey, everyone in the chat, thanks for being here with us. I see some familiar names. Hi, Cody. Hi, Steve. Hi, RB. Hi, Noor. Hi, Mallory. Hi, Ferry. Thank you guys for tuning in. Tell us where you're watching from. It's always really fun to see where people are tuning in from. Hi, Lindsay. Everyone's saying hello, Summer.
Hi, guys.
So exciting. We've got a lot planned for today and tomorrow. We're working right in Lightroom and Photoshop, and Summer will be going over all of her tips and tricks and her photo workflow. But we've got a couple of little, housekeeping things to do first. So let's take a look at the schedule and we'll see what's happening. So we had Shauna for getting started at 7:30 a.m., Jason Levine at 8:30 a.m. for a video daily creative challenge. Jesus, hi Jesus. He just did a Photoshop daily creative challenge just before us. And then we've got Summer for this stream until about 11:30. Right after, we've got Claudie from Print My Soul for an Illustrator Daily Creative Challenge. We've got Sydney at noon for logo design. Jesse Showalter for an Adobe XD Daily Creative Challenge at 2 p.m. And Kyle for a draw along at 2:30. And Budavel and Victor Davila for a design off at 3 p.m. So tons of stuff going on, you guys. Be tuning in all day. You can kind of put this on in the background as you're working. But really a great day today. So just, super exciting stuff, and we're going to be learning a lot. So I hope you stick around. But yeah, thank you guys so much for tuning in. We've got Summer here, and we're so excited to have you.
Yeah, I'm excited to be here.
Live. Yeah. We're doing a couple of different things. But if you want to introduce yourself to everybody who does not know you, and you can talk about, what you do and all that fun stuff.
Should I pull up my
absolutely
site real quick?
Yes, please.
I'll do that.
Ooh, okay. So we've got Floyd from Atlanta, Georgia. Steve is from New Zealand. Audra from Texas. Someone from Germany. Hi, Moritz. So a lot of fun stuff. A lot of fun people from all over.
I know, the internet's so cool.
It's such a great place right now to connect online. And yeah, I think the one good upside to this whole thing is that we can now have more Adobe Live and have more connection and, learn online too. And there's just all sorts of stuff going on. So,
yeah. I'm super excited to be here. My name's Summer Murdock. For those of you that don't know me, I am based out of Salt Lake City, Utah. I am a lifestyle commercial photographer and photo educator. I specialize in children and families in portraiture. I'm inspired by kids and just how quirky and real and natural they just give you who they are. I love that. I'm inspired by light, motion, weird and wonderful human connections, and the great outdoors. I love being outside in Utah and all of its amazing landscapes. It's the perfect place for me to merge all of these things together in my work. I'm a mom of 4 kids. They've made me a pro at walking into tough situations with less than cooperative subjects and making it work.
Yes. That's a skill for sure.
Yeah, especially on commercial settings. I think it's like commercial sets. I feel like there's a lot of commercial photographers that kids are not their favorite, and they are sure mine. Like I love it. And then I teach an online class called The Magic of Light. I've been doing that for 8 years, which was kind of a surprise in my journey. Yeah, it's nothing that I ever planned on doing, but it's been really, really successful. And I co-founded and run an online photography school.
That's amazing.
Mostly though, I just love to create, the work.
So basically, you're like coming home. This is where you're supposed to be, teaching and offering all your knowledge.
Yeah, I love creating. The work that I'm most proud of is of my own kids, my personal stuff. I just love shooting, experimenting. I've been doing this for 12 years, and I think I probably love it just as much now as I did when I first started. I'm a huge champion of the creative process, and I just love building up other photographers, helping them become the best version of themselves.
Oh,
So,
that's
anyways,
beautiful. I
yeah.
love that.
And here's
Well, I mean, yeah, we're really excited to be learning from you. Yeah,
excited.
we've got a couple people trickling in. Hi, Taryn. Hi, Michelle. Hi, Catherine. We've got from Montreal, Canada. Catherine's from Chicago. Emma's watching from London. Oh, thank you, Cody, for plugging in her Magic of Light course link.
Oh,
Yeah, super cool.
I can't see
And
I want to see the chat. And
I know. Don't worry. I'll be pulling
familiar
out all
to me.
these comments. And I encourage
Yeah.
everyone who's watching to ask questions throughout the entire stream, because Summer is here and she is available to, offer any, answers to your questions and any thoughts and tips and tricks. So yeah, Summer, do you want to talk about what you're going to be working on today? And
today I am going to, we'll see how far we get. I have lots and lots prepared. We're going to be talking about, and I really want to encourage questions because of course we're going to talk about editing. I'm so grateful for, I've been using Adobe products since I think 2002. I took a Photoshop class
oh my gosh.
before I was even a photographer. And I'm so grateful for the tools that Adobe's created that
honestly
really helps, seriously, helps bring it all together, But yeah, so I want to talk about, I'm going to show you some of my underwater work, some portraits. I want to talk about the new color grading feature that is amazing. I love it so much. We'll open things up in Photoshop and so
I'm so excited.
Yeah, me too. But I want you guys to ask me questions. It doesn't have to just be about editing. I'd love to talk about photography, and if you have questions about underwater or light, settings, whatever.
That is amazing. Perfect. Sarah says hi from Vancouver. Jennifer says Summer is the best. Hi, Omer. He's from London. So lots of people tuning in. So yeah, please ask those questions. We'll be here for the next 2 hours. Yeah, cool.
Okay, so should we get started?
Let's jump right in.
Okay, cool. Would you guys be interested? I have it right here. Should I show you really quickly my underwater housing before we?
Oh my gosh. Yeah, that's cool. Oh, perfect. Someone just asked. Hi, Paco. He's asking, curious to know what case you use for underwater pics.
Yes, I have. This is my STL water housing with the dome port. It's massive. When I'm on the beach with this thing, my kids always get super embarrassed because people come up to me nonstop like, what is that?
Oh my God, incredible.
Totally. It's so funny. They're horrified.
It does look massive. I would also be maybe not embarrassed, but I'd be like, oh, what is she doing?
Totally. Anyways, this is a surf housing, not a dive housing. So it only goes down it's designed for just, surf and shooting a little bit under the water, but not dive 200 feet down.
That makes sense.
I think it's rated to 20 feet, maybe 30.
Okay.
Anyways, but so that's my housing. I shoot with my backup camera, which is a Mark III in that housing. And shooting underwater, it's important to shoot with a wide angle lens because if you think about it, the water puts a lot of particles and cloudiness between you and your subject. So you have to get as close to them as possible. I shoot with a 28 millimeter lot. But a couple weeks ago, I went and shot in California with a couple of my underwater photographer friends, and they let me borrow one of the girls let me borrow her 15 to 24, I think.
Yeah.
I think I need that lens.
Oh my gosh, amazing.
Anyways, so
super wide angle.
Yes, because the closer, it's just better. get better color and clarity.
Amazing.
Okay, so let's talk about this image here. This image was taken off the North Shore of Kauai. We spent hours this day jumping. We found this rock. This is my son. This is my daughter right here. I don't know who these people are. Jumping off this rock into the ocean, into the surf, and there was waves. And, you know, I'm obsessed with getting split shots where I can see what's going on below the surface and above the surface. It's my very favorite thing, which is super tricky to do when you're shooting in the water and there's waves and you're like walking and anyways, but
takes a couple shots.
Yes. Oh yes. That's one of the things that you, as a photographer, you got to be patient, right?
Yes, for sure.
And when I'm shooting in the water, I tend to I probably tend to overshoot anyways, because I shoot a lot of motion and I shoot digital and I can, right? Yeah. But particularly in the water, I tend to overshoot because it's really easy to miss focus with water droplets on the dome port. Yes. And so, yeah, I tend to overshoot, and I've just, you know, learned to be patient, know what I want. You know, I wanted to be able to see my daughter under the water, get him mid-motion jumping. So yeah.
Amazing. Well, everyone's saying they think your underwater case is super cool. Cody says it's awesome. Quinn says that's a lot cooler than my GoPro.
You get a lot more control when you're shooting with your DSLR than, you know, I think I started shooting in the water 8 years ago with a little Lumix. It was like a Panasonic Lumix point and shoot. And I was just so frustrated all the time. And then I bought one of those bags. It was like $8, right? And that I was constantly having. It's
not the same.
No, it's not the same control. I will say, for those of you interested in underwater, it's really important. I have several friends that shoot in the water a lot. I don't know anybody who hasn't had a leak or drown a camera if you're shooting a lot. And so I think it's important, you know, usually it's human error, but you know, insurance.
It happens. Yeah, for sure.
It's a risk for sure. Yeah. So definitely. Anyway, okay, let's edit. So I'm going to start, you know, my usual workflow, I tend to start with, I have a couple presets that I have created myself that I usually start with. And would you guys rather that we hand edit, or should we, and we can do both within this 2 hours, obviously.
Oh yeah. Yeah. I would say probably both is great.
Yeah. So maybe on this one, since we're going to open it in Photoshop, I'm going to start with my preset. There's some things that I do consistently to my images. You know, if you look at my work, I shoot in a lot of different types of light with a lot of different color, but I do find that if you keep certain tones of colors, like with blues, for instance, I always add a little bit more aqua to them. And I try to keep my greens somewhat consistent so that no matter what, when you put everything together, you have a cohesive look, right?
It flows.
So, yeah. And so that's sort of what the presets that I use do. It's just because I tend to do the same things a lot, you know? And so the presets gives me a good starting point, but every time you use a preset, you absolutely have to tweak it. Yeah, I mean, I think particularly when I first started, I used to get presets. I would purchase them and use them and just think like, why isn't this working? You know? But yeah, I hand edit more and more now, but every preset needs to be tweaked because every image
absolutely.
You know? Okay. So let's start here. Usually let's reset. Before I do anything, my first step is usually to adjust my exposure just a little bit if I need to. That's one of the first things I do. Second thing I do is adjust my temperature and tint. I am kind of a lazy shooter. I shoot in auto, white balance most of the time. I know that you can get better results if you shoot in Kelvin or even the program modes. But for me, I always forget to switch it. And then I end up with like worse white balance than
Yes.
if I had it in auto. So it's one less thing I have to worry about. And when you shoot in RAW, you can adjust it. No
Anything.
problem.
Yes.
Exactly. And I tend to usually with images, I'm increasing the yellow and decreasing the pink.
Sure.
Usually what I end up doing. Okay. So there's that. I mean, you can look at that, how much better that looks.
Yeah.
Even just with doing a little bit of an exposure and temperature and tint.
Totally.
Okay. So now I will add this. Okay. Which does a lot of things. And so you can see here that it's up my shadow. So you can kind of play with that. And usually then after I add the preset, I look at the temperature. Is it too warm? Maybe a tiny bit. I'm going to have to bring down the vibrance and all kinds of things here.
Sure.
And add a little bit of pink back. Okay.
Paco says, great point. Easy to think of presets as slap them and be done with it. You'll get so much more by tweaking them according to each photo.
Totally. It's a must. So, and it can be really quick. They can be huge time savers. It's particularly because I use a lot of tone curves. And tone curves can be really, I even have just tone curve presets where I just have my favorite tone curves saved so that I can just click on those, because those I find at least can be super, they're hard for me to get just how I want them sometimes.
Sure.
So anyways, so let's start here with, and then the next thing that I usually do, I look at all this. I think I'm going to bring down the vibrance just a tiny bit there. It just looks a little bit oversaturated, just a little too bright for me. And then I am going to, you can see what it did here with my tone curve. The parametric point, and I usually double those two up. I don't even know why. I've just always done this. Anyone else?
Yeah, tell us.
Yeah. So yeah, and you can see here I'm bringing shadows down, darks up, and you can see this little S curve that it makes in the parametric point. I also do an S curve here. This is a curve that I use a lot. But I do find that, and you can quickly just really change how an image looks, but I'm always trying to go for this slight S curve. Do you see that? And then usually I put just one point there in the middle. And here with the tone curve, you can add more pink. If you go towards the pink, you'll add more blue if you go down there. I just kind of want it right in the middle. My edits tend to be fairly simple. So yeah, there's that. And then the next thing that I do is looking at hue, saturation, and luminance. And this is where I often spend a decent amount of time. But you can see here with the hue, what I talked about tones and making them, sort of similar in your blues and greens across all of your work. This is where I do that. And I am always bringing my blues down or towards aqua, usually around like minus 15-ish. You can see here the difference, right?
Yeah.
And I just like my skies, not too crazy. That looks nuts, but just around there so that things are a little bit more aqua. And my greens, I usually like them to be a little bit more green. There's not a whole lot of green in here, but you can see how that changes a little bit.
Yeah.
And then, you can play here too with the aquas, whether you want the water to be really green, you can see how that really changes it.
Absolutely.
So yeah, there's that. And then, I tend to desaturate my greens all the time. I like them to be true and natural looking, but particularly if, depending on the light, they can look neon sometimes.
Sure.
So I have to be careful about that. I'm going to bring the aqua down and the blue down just a little bit so that it doesn't look too intense, right? That's crazy.
Yes.
It's always a good thing if you want to know what something does as you're experimenting to do it overboard. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I always do that too. It helps to see what what it affects in the image.
Exactly. It's very helpful, particularly if you're like trying to figure out your editing style and
exactly.
Yeah. So anyways.
Mallory wanted to ask if you had seen My Octopus Teacher.
Yes.
That documentary. Yeah.
Yeah. I love that show. I cried tears. I don't cry tears.
I haven't seen it. I need to see it.
It made me just, I mean, I don't live by the ocean, but that's Utah's amazing with all the landscapes and I'm not complaining, but if I could just live right on the beach. That guy.
Amazing.
Yeah. Watching him swim every single day. If you guys haven't seen that, it's so
I need
good.
to see it. I'm going to go see it.
Yeah. My whole family loved it. All my kids loved it too.
Aww.
Okay. And then luminance. Here, skin, we'll talk about this when we start to talk portraits. But here I probably, when I have blue skies, something that I'm always kind of thinking about is, do I want my skies to be intense? And you can bring the luminance slider down. And I do that often. I don't want things to look, it can look crazy there and you don't want that. So I probably will just bring it down just a little bit. And, you can see how the luminance is affecting the water too. So yeah, that is awesome. And then another thing that I think I would love, that I do with underwater that I think I'll show, which is really cool. When you want to isolate, this is
like a radial.
It's not radial, like it linear.
Right? Linear. Yes, that sounds right.
Yes. Okay. I just know where the tools are. I don't know the names of all of them. I just know how to use them.
Adobe can't expect you to learn every single name of every tool.
I do know the name of it, but I can't think of it right now. Anyways. Oh, wait. I'm going to start over here with that. Oops. What's going on here? Okay. So basically I'm going to do why is my mask on this not showing up? You know what I'm saying? Why is my mask not? How do I do that?
There's like a setting.
Yeah.
Maybe like right click on it or something.
Yeah. Hold on a sec. I feel like my mouse is not being very sensitive here. Okay. Why will this not turn? Seriously, what's going on? Okay, there we go. Okay. Yeah. This isn't working. Okay, you know what I'm going to do? You can do that, or you can just do a brush. I don't know why that is not.
Oh, someone mentioned Catherine said click mask overlay at the bottom.
What is my computer is doing things that I'm not telling it to do right now. Okay. The wheel of death.
I know.
No.
But yeah, there's a little button or something at the bottom where it says mask overlay, like to toggle mask the overlay.
Thank you. Yes, thank you.
I know people are always really, really nice in the chat and always offering,
I need it.
Good suggestions.
Okay. And then I'm just going to clear all the effects of this. Okay. Okay. Technical difficulties. I'm just what is going on here? My computer is,
is it having a rough time?
It is. It's doing things I'm not telling it to do right now. Okay, I'm just going to paint this on quickly. And if you push O, you can always see exactly where your brush goes, which is kind of nice.
Yeah.
So I'm just going to paint this on because I'm having struggles for some reason with my linear filter. Okay, and what I wanted to show is, I don't know if you've ever used this, but the range mask is color range mask. I use this a lot when I'm doing underwater photography because oftentimes I want to change the color of water. I don't mind the color here, but I'm going to turn off the mask. And then you can use this dropper tool. Do you see the dropper tool over here? So you want to click on that, and then you can just click. And if you push shift, it will sort of mask off. I think you can do up to 5 points. Let's see. Yeah. Okay. And so I'm going to push the mask back on. Oop. Well, that didn't completely work. Usually it masks the person off. You know what I mean? But let's see here. But you can then go here, and I always have the fine adjustment clicked, and you can sort of tweak. Okay, you can tweak. You see how it's being slow for me, but it can change just the color of the water. As I'm making edits and trying to move, it's not updating on my computer, which is. Let me do that. I'm having to close Lightroom and just restart it.
Okay, sounds good. I mean,
yeah. I think the thing is, can't see my apps. Technical difficulties here.
I know. It always happens, of course.
Yeah, I'm sure you guys deal with this all day long. I don't want it to happen to me. Okay. All right. So we can just click back on here. And if you push O, you can see that. And let's see.
And Summer, I don't know if you're able to put the make Lightroom all like full screen. Yeah, there you go. Perfect.
I need to move this up to the side so I can't, it's not in my way. Okay. Yeah, so anyways, this can be like a great tool. You can see that, how it can change. And if you uncheck the adjustment, it really can change it.
Whoa.
And what's cool, usually you can mask off, and I could even do that and erase her so that it only affects that eyedropper tool. It works really, I mean, you can change, I don't do this a lot, but you can change like people's shirt colors, all kinds of things. I don't do that a lot, but it's a great tool, this little range mask. And I feel like a lot of people don't even know that, and it only works on adjustment brushes, but I use it all the time.
Got it.
Yeah. So anyways, whether you want the water to be more blue, I'm going to use the fine tune adjustment because it doesn't make things look so crazy. But yeah, so you can see that there, and I'm going to leave it about there. So that looks pretty good. And I am a big believer in really learning to trust your eye when you're editing. I think that I remember when I first started, when you first start, you really have to experiment and play a lot with editing to figure out your style.
That's so true.
Yeah. I mean, I look back at my edits from when I first started and oh my gosh, sometimes I'm like, what? And now I have to like go back, and if I ever pull those up, I feel like I need to go back and re-edit. So that's one thing that I really try to do now, is to keep things simple enough to where I know I'm not going to look at it and be like, oh, that was so 2010 or whatever, the editing trends. But yeah, so I try to keep things kind of simple, and I am going to bring the vibrance back up. That's looking pretty good. I am not going to I'm going to go more in depth with not split toning. It was split toning, but color grading on another image. But this is something that I also use all the time. You can just, you know, add, we'll go more in detail about that on another image.
Okay.
And then sharpening, I'm going to do Option. If you do Option Command, I'm going to do a little bit of that. Let's see here. Not going to add grain. Sharpening. Okay, Option Command. This is my favorite. And then while you click Option Command, you slide it over, and then it will only sharpen the white areas. So it doesn't over sharpen the whole image, which I love. So there's that. And then we're going to open this in Photoshop, but I am next going to do a little bit of, you can see part of my port there in the two corners, and I want to get rid of those. And for something like this, Lightroom Healing Cloning Tool will do a pretty good job. I do everything that I possibly can. I don't open very many images in Photoshop. Do everything that I possibly can in Lightroom. But this image, I actually want to, do you see how her head is disconnected from her body? I actually want to fix that, as well as I don't know these people, and I'm just going to clone them out, and it will be, I could try to do it in Lightroom, but usually for something like this, it doesn't work as well. So I'm just going to do Command Z, which will undo the last thing that I did. So other than the cloning work and the moving her head, this is looking pretty good to me. So I am just going to open in Photoshop.
Cool. Awesome. And then Kaylin is asking if you could do a brief redo of the last edit with the brush, but I do want to let you know this live will be available for replay later. So you can totally watch it on your own time. And yeah, and Audra had the same question. So yeah, you guys can definitely watch this after the stream is over.
Okay, so should I just not redo it right now?
Yeah, if we have some time like later, you can kind of explain it real quick, but yeah.
Okay, so first off, my very favorite tool that I use all the time is Content Aware Fill in Photoshop. It's just so, it doesn't always work, but when it works, it's like
amazing.
Yes, exactly. And on something like this, I think that it will work. So I'm just going to get my lasso tool, and instead of just I do find that doing little bits, like little parts, works better than big areas. So I'm just going to get my lasso tool, and I'm going to go like this. And then all you have to do, you can go up here and go edit. You can do fill. There's Content Aware Fill, which is a little more detailed, or you can just do fill like this and make sure that you say Content Aware, and you can see there.
Wow, there you go.
Yeah. And then I'm just going to do the same thing to her. The other thing you can do, instead of doing what I just did, just push delete and it pulls that up.
Amazing.
And there's that. And same thing here, and just push delete and it pulls this up. Again, you just want to make sure that it says Content Aware right there. Okay, so
amazing.
That is awesome. And then I don't have to get I can post whatever and don't have to worry about releases for some strangers on the rock that I don't know. It just simplifies it.
Yeah.
And then what I'm going to do, because I want to move her head over so it's not disconnected. I have two ports with my underwater housing. My dome port does not disconnect head. It doesn't distort and disconnect body, like heads from bodies like this. My flat port disconnects them. But there's the benefit to this with the flat port is that she's in focus up here, down under the water and above the water. Whereas if this was shot with my dome port, her head would be where it's supposed to be, but all of this would be soft and out of focus.
Okay.
So
that makes sense.
Yeah, anyways.
Give and take.
Exactly. So yeah. So the next thing, I'm just going to do layer, duplicate layer to start. And then usually I try to keep it as simple as possible. What I'm going to do is use my lasso tool, and I'm just going to sort of give myself some space here. And then I'm going to go up here and do copy. And then I'm going to paste. And you can see over here on a new layer that I have, oops. I have her head here that I can then move around. And then I'm going to go to layer and layer mask, and I'm going to say reveal all. And then I'm going to get an adjustment brush, which needs to be black. And I'm going to start by just doing this, and I'm going to have to tweak it.
Oh yeah, that's cool.
Yeah, just kind of fix that. And this always involves a lot of just playing around. Takes a lot of precision. I seem to never do it the same way every time. And then I'm going to move her head back over this way a little bit. I went too far over.
Yeah, that looks good.
Yeah, so it's simple. And then you can kind of see it needs maybe a little bit of clone work right there. You can see the water's not looking quite, but it looks pretty good. Let's see, I'm just gonna get my clone tool. I got to make sure that this is good first because then I flatten the layer. And then I'll do, oops. Yeah, you get the point though. You could sit here for like hours tweaking this kind of stuff.
Yeah.
Okay, so if I feel good about that, then I'm probably going to flatten this and this. And then I'm going to do just a little bit of clone work to clean that up because this doesn't look quite normal, which option control with the clone tool, you can kind of just play around there. The nice thing about this is that the water this is all kind of really soft anyways because of the water. So I don't have to,
Yeah, you can be pretty loose with it.
Exactly. So anyways, so you see that, and then you can just push save and go back to Lightroom and let's see, and it will show up right there, and you can see, here's my before. Oh, no, you can't see the before. Well, you kind of can, at least from what I did in Photoshop.
Yes. Very cool.
Yeah. So there's that and that. Anyway, but yeah, it really takes that image doing those couple things to like a whole other level. So
yeah, puts the focus, on your children, and then the disconnection is, from, it just looks so much better.
Yeah, absolutely. Anyways, okay. So there's that one. And let's do next. Let's talk about the color grading tool.
Yeah.
So I've always used split toning, but just this just gives you so much more control. But plus now they've added luminance and the midtones, and I love it. It's fairly new, so I'm still really trying to find my way with it. And I also am not a huge, I keep things pretty simple as far, I don't add huge cinematic toning to a lot of my work, but I still love it. And if you're not familiar, and I'm just going to reset everything here. Okay. So you can see I underexposed this just a little bit.
Mm-hmm. Always better to underexpose.
I am all about that. I always tend to underexpose just a little bit, but my goal is to only have to bring it up like 0.25, 0.30, you know what I mean? Like just a little bit. I feel like if I'm having to bring something up over like 8.85 or 1 that I've probably underexposed. I think sometimes if you have to do too much bringing it up, you'll start to add a lot of noise. So you want to be careful with that. Getting it right in camera is always the best, but no one's perfect. Not me, not anyone. And it happens.
Yeah.
So anyways, and I always look at it too, you know, if you're shooting raw, it's like it's like a negative back in the darkroom days, and you've got Lightroom.
I mean, also like you're, you know, especially with the subjects that you're photographing too, like you don't really have a whole lot of time to like, you know, mess with your settings. So even if you, you know, get it a little underexposed and, you know, then you're set, then you can do the work in Lightroom and really focus on that. Yeah.
For sure. I think when you're photographing moving people a lot, you have to be, there's so much going on. And I think, you know, this is one of the things that I talk about a lot in my class is learning how to meter so that you don't have to take your camera off your face. And nowadays with a lot of the cameras with electronic viewfinders, you know, when I shoot with my little Fuji, I don't even have to meter. You can just tell if the light has changed. You know, you can see it through your viewfinder. But with my DSLR, with my Mark IV, which is my favorite still, I don't have that awesome benefit. So, but yeah, metering is really important. You know, I'm usually pretty good about it, metering, and where I can just check my meter. I use the zone system, and I can quickly just adjust my settings without having to take my camera off of my face, which is helpful when if you want the decisive moments, which I sort of feel like this was a decisive moment here in the photo. You gotta always be looking.
Be ready.
Be ready. Yes.
Teresa says, what was the water casing that you mentioned?
It's the SPL water housing.
SPL water housing. Okay. Got it.
He's local out of San Diego. And yeah, he's kind of a smaller, there's some, you know, he builds them all himself.
Wow. So, that's incredible.
Yeah, he started years ago. It's a cool story, basically building them out of his garage for surfers. But
amazing.
Anyway, yeah.
Cool.
Okay. So here's this image. First of all, I'm going to do, like I said, my normal thing is to bring it up a little bit, you know, adjust exposure, temperature, and tint first. That looks pretty good. This is going to need some work, so I'm not going to bring it up too much.
Okay.
But let's see, tint, I want to do a little, plus add a little more pink to that with all that green. Okay, so that's looking pretty good. And then I'm gonna go to my tone curve, and I'm just going to edit this one by hand. Usually I do this and I bring these 2 points over to the side. And then I'm going to bring my highlights. Let's see, usually bring my lights around there, darks, and I bring shadows down usually. And often I do a little bit of that also. Okay. Usually I do all of this first, but, and I am like kind of all over the place. I tweak things and you have to go back. I'm sure everybody's like this, right?
Yeah.
You have to go back and change and whatever. Okay. So as far as tone curves go, I used to be super intimidated by them. And I still am a little bit with doing the S curve, just because you can just really,
you can affect so much.
Yes.
In such a small way.
Exactly. By just barely touching things. And so, yeah. Okay, so usually I am going to start by just adding a point here, point in the middle, point there. So this is usually kind of where I start. I am going to, and like I say, I have a few tone curves that I have saved as presets, which you can see over here. Let's see. You can see I have like my tone curves. That saves me a lot of time because tone curves take a lot of time, but I'm going to show you what I do. Here, I'm just going to bring this up a little bit. This sort of brings you can see if you go way up, it brings the blacks up, right? And down here. So I'm going to make those blacks a little bit darker. Up around 10 is where I usually do that. And then this one here, this point curve, I'm going to, it's going to be, let's see, usually 50. I kind of know my numbers.
Yeah.
Usually around there. Okay. And then the center point, I'm going to do, this is exciting TV right now. Playing with the tones.
This is great because I feel like, yeah, I mean, I feel like I've been the same, like tone curves, it always feels a little intimidating.
Yeah. They can be tricky.
I try to like study what they look like whenever I'm using presets to kind of just get an idea of like what, how things are affected.
Exactly. So you can see like how much it can just really, like, even just from here to here, right? It can really just, change things quite a bit. So I just basically want things to look like an S curve. You want that to be kind of in the middle, and I might bring that one up just a little bit. Okay, so it's looking okay. And then I often just put a point right here, and you can see if you want to add, especially for skin tones, you can add a little bit more color there. And then I don't often do, sometimes, but I don't often do a whole lot with those two. So yeah, that's looking pretty good. I might have to come back and tweak just a little bit, but we will see. And you know what I'm going to go ahead and do? You can see there's something in the grass right there. I am going to, I don't know what it is, but it's probably a piece of trash or something. And you can move that around, right? Let's see. That looks pretty good. Let's see there. Done. This is all out of focus. So
again, be loose with it.
Exactly. And then I'm going to, before we get to not split toning, color grading, I'm going to go ahead and crop. I'm going to crop in, and I want to center here. Put them in the center. And then, and again, usually I try to get it right in camera, but don't be afraid to crop. Anytime you crop in, you're going to lose resolution, right? So you have to be careful of that. But
that's true.
But yeah, and I have found too that the more that I really being thoughtful about my compositions and cropping in camera has helped me immensely, but I've learned almost just as much from getting it wrong in camera and then bringing it into post and opening up Lightroom with the crop grids, right? And really paying attention to where the rule of third lines are and just thinking and being critical. And I don't mean beating myself up, but just thinking of, what could I have done better to make this a more interesting composition? And I've learned so much.
That's really great. I mean, that's just like taking a look at your work and seeing how you can improve the next time. So, I mean, that's just learning.
Exactly. And there's always room for learning, right?
Yes, yes. Cody says, real quick, he loves messing around with the tone curve. So just like, that's so funny. That's great.
Yeah, the tone curve, it's like a love-hate for me. Like I really do love the effects of it when you get it right, but doing it every time to every image without using a preset drives me absolutely crazy, because you can just, it's just hard.
Yes. I just love the way that you compose this though. I think it's so unique. And I mean like just everything.
Yeah. I'll tell a little story.
Yeah, please do.
Behind this, these are my two kids. They're jumping on the trampoline, and two trampolines right here. And so this is my daughter with her legs, and she kept jumping backwards and jumping back. Right. And then my son was doing backflips. And I was standing up higher and getting where you could kind of see the trampoline, right? And it was cool, but as a photographer, I'm always trying to see the same scene in as many ways as possible.
Sure.
And I'm always thinking, every time I shoot, I'm thinking, okay, I'm going to shoot a wide angle shot, more of a mid-range shot, and then a detail shot, and then I'm going to get high if I can, and I'm going to get really low, because I find that, sometimes we walk into a scene and we get really stuck seeing something in one particular way. And if you don't force yourself to move around, there's so much that you miss. Yeah. And so, I just always force myself, wide angle, mid-range, detail, get high, get low. And then I move, and you can get so many shots just from your subject can be in this.
Yeah. Place, just from moving around and seeing it from a different way.
Yes. Yeah. And if I wouldn't have forced myself to do that, I would have never, I put my camera on the ground. I was laying on the ground shooting grass, right? I would have never seen this. So, because I didn't
love it
to begin with. But then when I got down there, I was like, yes. So anyways, I just encourage you, always, you can't see it if you don't move your eyes. You know what I mean? Yeah. So, it sounds simple, but it's something that's just really, really important.
Yeah. And I think also with that too, like, playing around with those like prime lenses, because I think that's like a good way to challenge yourself and to kind of, you've only got the one focal length. So like that forces you to move around and to kind of like test different angles and distances and all of that stuff. So
for sure. Yeah, absolutely. But my workhorse lens is my 24-70.
Oh, yes. Same.
Yeah, because for storytelling, because that's a lot of what I'm doing with lifestyle photography, I can quickly just zoom out, shoot at 24, 50, and then 70 and get 3 very different looking images. And of course, yes, I move my feet too, but particularly with fast moving people, particularly kids, I get such better compositions when I'm able to just tweak it by zooming in and out, because I can't move as fast as them.
Yeah, for sure.
What I mean? So, but I do shoot, I shoot with prime too, my 35, 24,
amazing.
50.
Yeah, I love it.
Lenses are fun
they're so fun. Missy Turner says, "Hey Summer, miss seeing your face and learning from you."
I know, Missy. How's it going?
Awesome.
Mallory
says, "I would love to see you pull up more of that yellow in the background." I know, I was noticing that little peak of yellow too. So
fun. We should do that. Let's see here. Well, if I can bring it up and do even more of that.
Oh, wow. Oh, yeah. I forgot that you had cropped it in.
Yeah. So you could do that.
So cool.
And bring even more of that. Okay. So yeah, that yellow is actually just green trees with sun on them. But so let's talk about, let's go to the, here. And greens can always be super tricky, I find. Not when the light's like this as much as when you have more backlight. They can get super crazy looking. And I tend to, with my greens, oops, that's not green. for hue, I tend to make them be more on the green side. And yeah, I mean, you could pull, if you can see what that does here with the yellows, when I play with yellows to the background, right? It's not really affecting much else. But yeah, you could emphasize that by doing that. Sure. And then for saturation, I'm actually going to bring my green saturation down quite a bit. And then I'm going to bring my orange saturation up just a little bit for skin tones.
Nice.
And luminance, same thing. I often, depending on the skin, you can see that's one of my things that I use the most with skin tones, luminance and the oranges, whether you need it to be, you know, if they're too washed out, you can bring it down. You can add light and luminance by playing with that. Sometimes depending on, you know, the person's undertones, the red will work also.
Sure.
So you have to be, and same with yellows, right? You can bring that yellow luminance down if you really wanted to play with that.
What would you do if, like, for example, maybe there was like, you know, in your image, there was orange in the background or something too? Like, how would you then?
Yeah, then you're going to have to, and you can't, then I usually use an adjustment brush and paint on. You can't, I wish, how awesome would it be if we,
I know, right?
well in the adjustment brushes. But you can usually play around with the tint and temperature. Also that range mask that I showed you.
Yes, that's right.
You can play with skin tones a little bit that way too. But usually I find that I can get it close this way. And then if I have to add a little bit with an adjustment brush for, you know, painting it on, masking it on to my subject's skin and adding either some more warmth or, you know, pinks or whatever.
Yeah, that's great.
Yeah, and that's really helpful. Okay, so that's looking pretty good there, I think. That's looking pretty good. I want to bring up shadows a little more here.
Taryn's asking, did you say they were on 2 different trampolines?
Yes, there's 2 trampolines in the ground. Yeah, so yeah, and you know, you would have, looking at this, if I hadn't said that, you don't even know.
I would just assume that she's on the ground laying with her legs up and then he's just doing a backflip on the grass.
Right, so anyways,
so cool.
All about perspective. I'm going to bring up temp just a tiny bit there. Okay, so that's looking pretty good. Blacks, I feel like I need to even tone curve. It's just the darks are looking a little too, there we go. Okay. All right. And then let's talk about color grading. So I don't know if, for those of you, again, I've used, I used this before it upgraded to color grading. It was split toning before. I've always kept it really subtle. But this is cool because for those of you that also use Premiere Pro, these wheels are very similar, right? So if you're already using that program, this is probably feels, I love how Adobe, you know, I started using, when I first started, I used Photoshop for years. I used Adobe Camera Raw and Bridge. And then the last few years, I finally converted over to Lightroom. And so, but I love how everything is fairly consistent across. And so I think this is a cool thing that, you know, for those of us that are moving.
It's surprising that it just only got added to, you know, you would think that it would come from photography then to video as well. But
totally.
So many new features for sure in this, you know, in these new releases. That's so exciting.
It is. I always love, and this is like, I think one of the biggest upgrades and updates that there's been in quite a while.
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay, so the wheels, basically you've got your highlights, or these are your midtones, right? Here's your shadows and here's your highlights. And what you can do is, first of all, you can move this around, right? So you can pick whatever color. You'll notice it doesn't do anything unless you move the, this is the saturation, right? And again, that looks terrible. But that kind of gives you an idea of what it does. I find it easier to click on every individual wheel, and then something, if you're used to split toning, you can click on that here, you know, this little arrow. Do you see that? And then it's more like it used to be, right? Where you just kind of have your hue and you can pick your number and pick your saturation, but luminance is new, which is really cool. And this is affecting shadows, and I'm gonna leave it. The other thing that I think is nice, if you want to use the wheel, if it's on Mac, it's Option. If you push Option, it makes it less sensitive, so it's not moving all out. So you push Option and it's a little bit less sensitive and easier to tweak, which is nice. And then if you push Shift, and this is on a Mac, I don't know the PC.
I know, I don't either.
And then if you push Shift, this affects only the saturation.
Ooh.
So that's kind of nice to be able to separate those two out.
Okay, so Shift is for saturation.
Shift is for saturation.
Okay, and then what was the other one?
Option makes it so you can move it around, but it's just, you have more control.
Yes.
That makes sense.
Yeah.
It's not moving around, this is what I'm doing.
Yeah, that's really great.
I'm doing the same thing, the same speed right now, and it's just easier to fine tune it. So those are kind of nice to use. And I'm just gonna, you can always click on adjust. If you click on adjust, double click, it will reset everything. If you see.
Oh, cool. Okay.
So you do that, and then let's see here. Adjust. If you do that, just resets it, which is nice.
That is super nice.
Yeah. So let's see. Shadows. I'm going to add just a tiny bit of where am I going to add? The hue. I am still kind of stuck on, I like to add a little bit of yellow usually. So somewhere around there. And then my saturation, I usually keep pretty simple. And so another cool thing is you can click on this eye and it will show you. You see that? It will show you. You can't really see it because it's so subtle, but it will it'll show
the difference.
Can't talk. Exactly. It'll show the difference, right?
Yes.
And then you can go to the, oh wait, let's talk about luminance, which is really cool. I'm going to leave it as is, but here with I'm going back to shadows. So you can see it'll bring up the luminance. I'm going to leave it as is with shadows. But I will use it. I use it in the highlights a lot. Okay, so here's shadows, or midtones, I mean. And I think I'm going to leave my midtones alone, but with highlights, I'm going to, I am going to add just a tiny bit of warmth to my highlights.
Okay, cool. So, Chandra says, hi, Summer. Love this shot and your composition. Getting low is my favorite POV.
What's up? I know, Chandra.
Oh, yeah. Cody says, I love how dark and moody this shot is. Dark desaturated greens are my favorite. And Chandra loves the dark saturated greens too.
Yeah. I want them to still look natural because I sometimes see a lot of where they get almost too desaturated.
Sure. Yeah.
But I like them. I feel like, to me, this is more it's probably a little bit darker than what my eye saw, but it feels more true to life. But I really try to, that's just kind of my style, is keeping it. Of course, I want to amp it up and make it look the best that it can, but I also, whether it's light, color, I try to keep it somewhat true to what my eye sees.
That makes sense. Yeah.
Yeah. And you can see here, like, do you see the luminance? And so I'm going to bring the luminance up quite a bit on there. Okay. And so then we have to talk about blending and balance, which I think Which one's
Okay.
new? I can't even remember.
I know. Are they both though? They might both be new.
I thought balance. I thought maybe I'm wrong, but I thought there was a
Or
balance.
actually, maybe it's the blending that's new.
Yeah, the
I think it's
balance.
the blending.
Yeah, I think the balance was always there.
Yeah.
But because at first, and I'm still kind of trying to figure out how to work these.
I know. I like watched it, the release of that feature in the Adobe Max, the virtual.
Yes.
And I was like, whoa, this is so fascinating. But I need to like go back and like remember how it all works.
Totally. So I'm just gonna really, for the sake of, so you can see it, I'm gonna do my saturation all the way to 100% so that we can see this. But blending, basically, it's used to adjust the color, the overlap between the shadows and the highlights. So when you drag it to the left, it reduces the overlap so that there's like a more
Contrasted.
distinct, transition between the shadows and the highlights. And when you move it over here, it sort of applies it more to everything, right? So here it's just, this is more only applying it to highlights. Do you see that? When I do on and off, it's only in the highlights when the blending's more to the left. And then it applies it blends it more to everything when it's over at 100% to the right. So that's good to know. If you really just want to isolate only the highlights, right? Sure. Then you're going to want your blending to be more over to the side. And balance is used to sort of, it affects between the shadows and highlights. Keeping it at 0 balances. Let's see. Let's just try it. You can see here, when you take it, it reduces it in the highlights when you drag it to the right, and the opposite there. So yeah, it just sort of, this applies it to everything, and this almost makes it hard to see. Do you know what I'm saying? So it's not, to me, it almost feels like saturation. It's not though. Yeah, I don't know if anyone knows.
Yeah, if anyone has, could tell us the main difference between the balance and the blending, that'd be great. Yeah. Ferry's asking a question. He's asking, does midtones color adjustments, do they have an effect on the skin tone color?
I think it probably depends on
the
image and the shade of the person's skin. Because here, in this image, their skin is more highlights, but yeah, it will affect it a little bit. Let's see here. But you see that?
Oh yeah.
So yeah, it does affect skin tone. So that's a great way to, if you want to, if you move the blending over here and you want to just affect skin tones, you see how much more warmth that makes? So this is like a really great way to be able to isolate certain tones. And then to be able to do, with the luminance too. So there's a lot that you can do with it. Yeah, I am excited about it. And you have much more control than before.
Yeah, absolutely.
Split toning, Anyway, so
Alyssa has a question as well.
Yes.
She says, "Hi, Summer. Are you using a mouse or a Wacom or other tablet for editing?"
I'm using my trackpad laptop.
Just using trackpad today. I love it. I mean, yeah, I've done it. So if I'm on the go, yes.
I should probably look into something else, but yeah. On my laptop.
But honestly, I mean, for the kind of, like you mentioned, you do a lot of very impactful edits, but they're simple too, subtle, simple, and a lot of, so it's not like you're really like getting in detail of like, whereas someone that's maybe like doing a lot of compositing work or like,
For sure.
Yeah.
For sure. I mean, and this is to edit an image right now, we're taking a lot of time, but I mean, usually it would take me like 5 minutes, you know what I mean, to edit something. If that like 5 minutes is a long time. Sometimes it's like just a couple minutes. So yeah,
especially because you've kind of refined your process over time. So like you've got your presets, the kind of the same edits that you apply every time. So
Exactly.
you save yourself a lot of time. With that.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. So let's see here. I feel like this is not quite where I want it to be. Saturation's too much here.
Fairy says, "Oh my God, a trackpad! You are an absolute legend."
I know. It's funny. My dad is, no to the 100%. My dad is a creative director. Well, he just retired, but so he's been. I mean, I like grew up with Photoshop and Illustrator as part of my childhood in a way.
Aww.
He's always telling me that I'm crazy.
He's like, "Get a mouse." That's so funny.
But,
hey, if it works for you, if it ain't broke, don't fix it.
That's what I think. Anyways, so yeah. And then, again, option control. So you can mask the sharpening, do just a little bit of that. This image, I'm going to add some noise reduction.
Okay.
Because it was shot at 1250 ISO. Yeah.
Very nice.
It's looking pretty good.
Are you the kind of type of photographer that likes kind of more of that smooth look, or do you add grain to your images?
I don't add grain. I don't, and it's funny. I used to be all about like clarity, and I find myself even bringing clarity down sometimes.
Mm-hmm.
I guess I do sort of like things to be a little bit, I don't want it to be too crazy. I mean, that, you bring your luminance way up and use, I'm not into that, but I do like things to be a little bit more, soft isn't the right word, because I want things to be sharp, obviously.
Sure.
But not super clarified, I guess is.
Yeah. What's the opposite of clarified?
I don't know.
Oh, thank you, Cody, for plugging in Summer's website and Instagram. So go follow her to check out her work and to check out everything she has to offer education-wise, with all your classes and the magic of light. So lots to peruse on her site.
Thank you.
Yeah. And then Rochelle, today's stream and tomorrow's stream will both be available for replay later. So don't you worry. You can then pause it, play it whenever and learn all of Summer's tips and tricks.
Yeah.
Cool.
Awesome. Yeah. So this is looking, it's looking pretty good to me. I think I'll probably just call it good, but yeah, I mean, I keep it simple, but I love, again, one thing, obviously I teach a class about light, but I am always looking for the place where light and shadow come together. It is the magic spot. You can see here, there's shadows behind them. The light is hitting them. It just makes for moody, contrasty images. But, no matter whether I'm inside, outside, I'm just always looking for that place where light and shadow come together. Yeah, I
love it. I love it. Well, Missy's totally plugging in your magic of light course. She says it's amazing. Take it. Oh, that's really nice.
Thank you. Yeah, the class, it sells out fairly quickly. But yeah, I'd love to have any of you. Okay. All right. So I think we're good. Are there questions? Should we move on?
If there's any questions, ask them. Otherwise, we will keep on going.
Yeah. Okay.
Oh, cool.
Should we do maybe we should talk about portraits.
Yeah, I would love to see some of your portraits.
Let's do a portrait.
Cool.
Let's do this one. Okay.
Beautiful.
Reset everything here. Okay. So, again, light. I'm all about where light and shadow come together. This image, it was taken in my kitchen. I'm always saying this: light highlights, shadows hide. Let's see if I pull the exposure way up, if you can even see. Yeah, you can see sort of, you know, that there's a lot going on behind. And so sometimes when I have light like this, I intentionally underexpose a little bit because I just want the shadows to be hidden and I just want the light right here. I'm always paying attention to where the light's hitting my subject. This light I love in particular. It kind of reminds me of almost, what's it called? Like Rembrandt lighting.
Oh,
How do you say the word? It's like CAIRASCO. I know how to spell it, but not pronounce it.
I know.
But it just reminds me of like paintings. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Just that beautiful light. And I remember when I first started, people would always tell me that I would listen to like YouTube videos, or was YouTube even a thing back then? I don't even know. But, I remember watching tutorial videos and people saying, just pay attention to the shadows on faces. And I remember thinking, what are you talking about? Particularly, but now I can totally see it, you know? So it's super important in photography to really, really, really train your eye to see light and to see light like your camera sees it, because our eyes have way more dynamic range and can see, more detail and shadows and highlights than our cameras. And so it's really important to train your eyes to be able to look at a pocket of light and to translate how your camera will actually see that. Once you can do that, you'll be much more in control of your final image, if that makes sense. Because I feel like all the time we have these images in our heads, right? And it's hard sometimes to translate that into actually in camera. And so it's just really, really important. Pay attention to light and really watch it and observe it. I think light has probably, it's one of the things that inspires me the most. It's very meditative. I see it and I observe it. It has changed, and just watching it, touch everything around me. I even just will like watch it in my house and watch how it changes and touches everything and how it transforms things, you know?
Yeah.
I always say
throughout the day.
Yeah, totally. I mean, and throughout the seasons, throughout the year, you know, I mean, there's certain times where the light will come directly through a window. I can get cool sun flare, and then other times not so much. So it's just cool to watch and observe. So anyways, light. And you can tell here that I'm really paying attention to where the light's hitting her, and that there's a little bit of light on both of her eyes. You almost have that little triangle right there. And the light is hitting her. Light highlights, shadows hide, because I really don't care about all the stuff in the background that's going on. So there's that. And you can see, again, if this were flat, even light, the light transforms this, right?
Yeah.
Okay. So I always start with exposure, and I'm going to go about there, and tint. I'm going to go.
I'm curious if your children get tired of you photographing them.
Yes, absolutely. That's one thing, like if you are photographing your own friends or family, normally, particularly friends, usually when people are not my family, they're usually a lot more cooperative when they're not my kids. I think it's important to make it quick, you know, like I think when I first started, I used to try to make them like do all kinds of things and, you know, take lots of time. Now it's like, if I'm taking more than a minute or two to take a photo, it's way too long. Like you just have to be super quick, and they trust me, and they know that I'll say, I promise I'll only take a minute. I mean, I used to even at some point, like set a timer on my phone, say I have 1 minute, and after this, the timer goes off, you're done, you know, and and so that's if I'm asking for cooperation. For instance, the last image that I took, they were just playing, and I am just, you know what I mean? So it just depends on the scenario, but But yes, you have to be really careful because I always think this is my thing, not their thing.
That's so true.
You know, and I want to be, yeah, it's a fine line to toe, I guess.
Yeah.
And I don't want them to hate my camera. And, so anyways, I'll bring up my shadows a little bit. It's getting so bright in my office right now, which makes it tricky when you're editing.
Yeah.
Okay, so there is that.
Oh yeah, Kaylin said, well, she said the word that we both couldn't pronounce. She put it and she said it's Italian for light dark. That's cool.
Curiosco or something like that.
Yeah, Chiaroscuro.
Something.
Cody says they'll appreciate all these amazing photos of themselves when they get older.
That's the hope,
I think so
right?
too.
I do like a big photo album every year, like a book, and they love those too.
Oh, so, that's really cute.
Yeah, it's good. Okay.
Kaylin's also asking what lens this portrait was taken on.
This was taken with my 50 millimeter. It's at 1.2, so this is really wide open. I don't usually shoot that one, particularly for client work. I would never shoot something at 1.2. But when it's, I love the opposite of clarity, I guess, is softness. And I do love more of a soft, dreamy look, but not too dreamy, if that makes sense. It's a balance for me. I wouldn't look at my work and think that it's necessarily, there's a soft, dreamy quality to a lot of what I do. So, but yeah, this is 1.2, 50 millimeters, ISO 160, and what does that say? 1/400th of a second. Yep. So anyways, my 50 millimeter, it's like my favorite portrait lens. I love it.
Yeah, it's so beautiful.
It is. Okay. So, should we do a hand edit? How are we on time? Or should I use a preset?
Yeah, so we have about like 7-8 minutes before we go over to our portfolio reviews, but you'll be able to do some editing after we come back too. So up to you. I'll let you know. I'll interrupt you.
I'm going to use my preset, and this is the beauty. When you have a preset that you love. It like so this beautiful. Preset, I just, it's taken me a long time to perfect it and get it to where I want it. And of course I always have to tweak it, but I can do this and just
pretty darn good.
Exactly. Play with shadows, blacks a little bit, and I'm good,
That's so good.
Yeah. So this preset of mine, I use it on, it's like a base for almost everything.
But that's great because that's, again, like how you were talking in the beginning, like it's your way of kind of putting your stamp on your work, and it's how it's cohesive and it all looks good together.
Right. And it doesn't always work, right? But and sometimes it needs a ton of tweaking, but it works for me often. But yeah, if you look at that and you can look at let's talk about skin tones. Again, if you get the light right, you can just like click a couple little buttons. And even if I did nothing, if I didn't use my preset, I mean, I could reset this and just up my contrast, bring shadows down, play with, do simple things. And when the light's right, it's going to look good. You know what I mean?
So creamy. Yeah.
Yeah. So it's all about the light. Yeah.
Absolutely.
Does anyone, and you can do a little bit of noise reduction. And yeah, something else that I do a lot of times is down here. I don't know did I talk about this? The calibration.
No, I'm curious because I never really go down there.
Yeah, I
love to hear what you have to say.
I do. Sometimes I will, use the shadows and, if something's looking too pink or too green, I will adjust this, but often I don't. But I always bring my reds just a tiny bit more towards the dark red versus this yellow orange. And let's see, does this have no, this doesn't have a eye drop, like a little eyeball tool. It can show you what it did. But yeah, you can see the saturation, right? If I bring it way up, what that does, it just brings, I feel like for skin tones, lips, cheeks. It just brings a little bit more red into it.
Okay.
And then, yeah, often I make my greens a lot of times a little more towards this side. And then
what would be the difference of this, like the calibration versus like the other, hue saturation sections, or like,
I don't
know?
Anyone?
If someone can tell us in the chat, let us know.
Yeah, I don't really know. It's like another way that I have been able to
adjust color.
Tweak. Yeah. I mean, I'm sure it's just another layer. I'm sure you can do the same thing with using only the HSL panel, I mean, just like you can do a lot of things in tone curve that you can do in HSL panel if you have a steady hand and patience.
Yeah. Okay. So you know how you have the calibration? Is that little toggle button to the left of the word, does that turn it off and on? That little or right above that in the corner. Yeah, does that show like,
is it doing it?
I can't tell.
Let's see. Let's do it. Let's do super saturated and see if that. Yes.
Oh yeah. Okay.
Yeah. Cool. It's subtle,
Yeah,
but I don't know. It's just something that I've done for a long time, but it does, you can tell. That's the wrong. I just closed. Hello. There we go. Turn it back on. Yeah. So, and for instance, in this one, I could even bring that up a little bit more, but I could probably do that. Let's try that versus, just to play an experiment.
Yeah.
Versus saturation of red. It kind of does the same thing,
Mm-hmm.
So I don't know. This is just a base that, I wonder what the history behind why.
If anyone knows, let us know in the chat.
I know.
But to everybody asking about the portfolio, so we do portfolio reviews every now and then, and you just submit them over, I believe, in Discord. So there should be like a little tab up above the chat, and it's challenge, and it'll just take you over to Discord. And yeah, you can just submit your portfolio, and it might be reviewed in a future stream. So, but yeah.
Cool. Awesome. All right. So yeah, I think, does anyone have questions about this? I might crop in just a little bit.
Stormy says, looking cool.
Awesome, Stormy.
And Mallory says, if kids don't like to be photographed, they will let you know. And then some kids secretly enjoy seeing themselves. I guess her dad was a professional photographer, so.
Yeah. And it's funny too, like my own kids give me way more of a hard time than any other kid I've ever photographed in my whole life, So yeah. Anyways.
Amazing.
Yeah. So, and then just do a kind of an 8x10 crop. I'm kind of looking to put eyes on this rule of third line right there. Mm-hmm. And this is, simple. On commercial jobs, I often have to do extensive light setups, but when I'm shooting for myself, and I try as much, and even on commercial shoots, I try really hard to keep it natural, if at all possible, just because particularly when you're shooting kids, they get a lot more distracted by all kinds of extra things on set. You know what I mean? And I feel
That's so true.
It starts to get in the way of like the connection. So anyway.
Yeah, that's so true.
I'm photographing my own kids, and I'm taking time to do a giant light setup.
Yeah,
to make
and they're kids.
Have it all set up before I bring anyone to take the photo, and then I need to take 1 minute. So anyway, okay. So do we have time? So that's, to me, this is looking good. Again, I think that's a great example of showing how when you've got a process and you have a preset that works, you can click it. It's not totally one and done, a little bit of tweaking, but close.
But it gets you closer, and it's more just like time efficient,
So much more.
Yeah, so much more time efficient.
Some people, I know a lot of photographers that will sort of not a lot, but there's some photographers that will sort of say, oh, presets are cheating. And I don't know. I've
Yeah,
never
I
felt
know.
that.
It's so yeah, but it's what works for you, what
Totally.
works for some people, might not work for others. So it just all depends.
Exactly.
But with that being said, we are gonna head over to space and we will be back for some portfolio reviews. See you in a
Awesome.
bit.
Never mind.
All right. Hey guys. We are in space.
Going.
In a normal setting pre-COVID, we would probably be putting on some space helmets and being in the office in San Francisco at Adobe.
Why don't we do that right now?
I know, right? We should just make it happen. But thank you guys to everyone who submitted their portfolio. We're going to be reviewing one today and also another one tomorrow, but please keep submitting them because you might get it reviewed in a different stream. So, but we have got Kirsty Hepworth. She's from the United Kingdom and she works in both Lightroom and Photoshop. And a lot of what she does seems to be like kind of compositing and doing like fun effects. But yeah, Summer, if you wanted to jump in to any one of these, or I can just click on one and we can start and just kind of take a look at what we've got.
Yeah. Are we going to click on her website there in the corner? Or are we
we can do that. We can also just stick in here and Behance too. So it doesn't matter.
Yeah. Either way. Yeah. Let's start with, I don't know. I can't control. Yeah. You can just click on.
Okay. I'll start on this one, this September and October.
That's great.
All right.
Awesome. I love the colors and
I know.
texture. And so is this like painting on photographs? I'm wondering.
It kind of looks like a filter effect in Photoshop. Yeah, I think so.
I mean digital painting, I guess.
Yes. But it looks, it's kind of like these flowers, florals.
Yeah, it's super cool. I love how it mirrors. How you have that line in the middle where it's more literal at the top, and then there's the mirror on the bottom, where it's a lot more abstract. I mean, it's abstract, but it's kind of cool. And the colors are lovely. Yeah, it's really cool.
Yeah. Yeah, for sure. It's super cool.
Curious about her process.
I know. And I think we've got some more. Ooh, okay. I love this.
Yeah, that is super cool. What an interesting way to emphasize the colors of these flowers by desaturating everything else. Sometimes selective color can go south. Can go south fast.
Oh, sure.
This is an example where it's really cool.
Yeah.
Interesting.
I
love what she's done with it.
Me too. And it's funny because I kind of look at these and I start seeing like almost like fish.
Yeah.
But it's a very cool way to kind of emphasize color and emphasize on the flowers themselves. Yeah.
And that you still have all the texture in the black and white. It's really moody and rich.
Yeah. I would almost love to see like maybe like a triptych of like the same image, but maybe like changing up the colors and just kind of seeing like different variations of it all.
Yeah, that'd be interesting for sure.
Okay, here we go.
It's beautiful. Swan.
Yes.
Yeah, I love the moody black and white edit. I love that it's a true black and white.
Yes.
And I love the shape of it. There's part of me I'd almost wish that I could see part of the swan, like the side of the swan's head a little bit. But I say that only because at first glance I was like, oh, what is this? You know what I mean? And if you could see the swan's head, you would know exactly. But at the same time, maybe there's some beauty in actually having it be more abstract, which is
That's what I was thinking too. It's very abstract. Like it kind of takes a second to kind of think about what's going on.
which is cool, right? I
Yeah.
mean, because I always think anytime you have to, that someone is going to look at your images, anytime you make someone stop and look a little bit longer, I think you are being successful, you know? So,
yeah, absolutely.
yeah, it's cool. And the abstractness of this goes along, like fits in well with the style of the abstractness of the other images.
Yeah. And maybe, I mean, yeah, if you're going in this abstract direction, like the only thing I would say maybe is it's kind of interesting how it's a little bit like, you know, off, like as far as on a plane. But maybe that's just, that adds to the abstractness.
Yeah. No, I see what you're saying. And yeah, and part of me almost wishes I could see just a teeny bit more. I think that's water. I wish I could also see just not a lot, but even if you played with like luminance sliders and stuff, just to bring a little bit more water
right here. Yeah, you're right. I think it would add a little bit of really nice detail.
Yeah.
Because it's very beautiful. I love that it's so like the contrast of the white and the black water.
Absolutely.
So just even bringing in a little bit of highlight, like just in the water would be nice. And I mean, it all comes down to composition too, you know, like, you know, maybe giving a little more breathing room on the left and right.
For sure. That's always makes it a little easier on the eye if you have.
Yeah, exactly. But it definitely adds, there's a lot of interest in this image. And I think
the light is so cool, and how you can see all the textures of the feathers and stuff. Really nice.
Yeah, absolutely.
Cool. Lovely.
All right. And then we've got another like filtered effect.
Yeah.
Maybe playing around some textures too, or like applying textures.
Yeah, that's what it looks like, huh? Yeah, it's almost like I get like a sailboat vibe.
Yes. Yeah, same here.
But then that one thing in the middle, I think, is that a lamp? And then you almost looks like, if it is a sailboat, like those are water reflections on the side of the boat.
Yeah.
It's kind of cool.
I know. I do. Yeah. And I think, I mean, this effect kind of gives that like, you know, like a journey, like it's, you know, this picture has gone through a journey.
Right. The aged.
Like, yeah, it's aged. It's, you know, it's got that texture, and yeah, I think
and I love these triangles, you know, anytime you have triangles in your composition, it makes it interesting. I'm always looking for triangles. So I love those. There's part of me too that I don't know if this bigger one there, that bigger sail or whatever that is.
Yes.
I almost would love to see more of that abstract shape of, you know what I mean? More.
Yeah.
Like a little bit more breathing room.
Yeah. Just a little bit, you know, because you can always crop in too.
Exactly.
Yeah, for sure. Very cool.
Yeah.
Ooh, okay. Here's another.
Yeah, that's lovely. You can tell that she's playing with the slow shutter there, probably on a tripod to get, at least that's what it seems like to me.
Yeah.
The water's so soft.
I know, it is super soft.
So it makes me think that she's got this on a tripod and she's left it open for a really long time to achieve that, because the sky is soft. I love the sticks out of the water that are coming out to the side. Those are super interesting. Compositionally, it's nice. I would maybe even think that, you know, with the horizon line, it's pretty close, but I wonder, it looks slightly, I'm always all about trying to use rule of thirds with that and making sure that horizon line, it's pretty close. But it's almost like, we need a little bit more foreground, a little bit less sky.
Yeah, absolutely. I feel like there's just more interest at the bottom. So I feel like even just chopping off a little bit of the top will make a big difference.
Totally. And it's always a balance when you're shooting an image like this, trying to decide, you know, what is my story here? Is this more about the sky, or is this more about the water? You know, and you have to.
What's your intention?
Right. Whether you want to include a lot of sky in your composition, but I clearly think that here, you know, the interesting part of the story is the water and these rocks.
Yeah, and these sticks and rocks. Yeah, for
So
sure.
I would maybe just crop it in a little bit and just include a little bit less sky.
Yes,
but,
yes, exactly. Yeah. Cool.
Awesome.
All right. Ooh, okay. This is fun.
Yeah. I love how experimental.
Yes, me too. I think that's kind of the great part about photography is you could just experiment.
Totally. Yeah, I mean, because you're playing with photos, and I mean, I'm assuming you're probably doing a lot of this work in Photoshop. It's just really, it's cool.
Yeah, it's very cool, like collage-esque.
With the textures and colors and shapes. So yeah.
Yeah, I think it's a fun way to explore.
Absolutely. Yeah, and particularly I think when you're shooting landscapes and flowers and things like that, when you're shooting, you know, nature and wildlife, this is an awesome way to, I don't know, to sort of push it to a whole other art form, I guess.
Yes. Yeah, totally.
Way more abstract. So, love it.
That's awesome. Okay. Oh, here's another one, a smaller one. Yeah, I like that. That's fun.
Yeah.
I'm interested. I guess maybe this is like a notebook. Is that like a notebook type thing?
That's what I was just looking at, thinking, yeah.
Interesting. Okay.
Like part of a notebook, huh?
Yeah.
A flower and
oh, there's a little guy here.
Oh, and a butt. Yeah, I didn't even see that. I love it when you get little surprises.
I know.
No, I mean, it took me a minute. It's not really a surprise. It's pretty obvious, but
that's awesome.
Yeah.
Cool. And I guess she did a little explaining here. She says, "It's my work. I try to show that there's more to Photoshop and Lightroom than just your regular editing, but it is different for everyone. What I like to do is not just tell a story, but try to see what is going to have the wow factor."
Yeah. And I think you're just
pushing the limits.
For sure. Pushing the limits. Oh, look at this.
Ooh, okay. That's super fun. So I wonder if there's kind of like composite. I'm curious to know if these are her original images or if she's using like some stock photography to kind of put it all together. Yeah.
Same. Yeah. Yeah.
I would say that I think I would almost separate this kind of project into like maybe two, maybe like one with the flowers and the collages, and then maybe like one with all the like sailing boats and this kind of journaling and like aged notebook vibe. Yeah,
totally, because there's a lot of different elements going on. I feel like the mood and the style is very different in a couple of these, and I think regrouping them into you know, more of the aged look and then more of the nature flower texture type things would make it a lot more cohesive, I guess.
Exactly.
Yeah,
for sure. Ooh, yeah, see, this all belongs together kind of in its own thing.
Exactly. That's so cool. I love that I'm looking at this and just thinking, I see a mountain. Is that a lighthouse in the background?
I know. Yeah. And I think there's like this little like kind of tear sort of thing going on in between. So you've got two images. And then of course the little notebook binder thing
it's pretty
very
cool.
Yeah.
It's really cool.
Oh, okay. Love these.
Yeah. Now we have
I love this.
Yeah, the use of light in that is
oh my gosh. I think that's her jam. Like it's this like stark contrast, like whites, like kind of Ansel Adams in a way, like really bright whites and then the moodiness of the rest of the images.
Yep.
That's beautiful. Yeah. I would love to see more of that black and white, like in a whole project section.
Right. I agree. Yeah. So are these all in the same project all together?
Yeah. So look at I would definitely, think about how you can tell a story and group different same things together, if that makes sense.
Exactly. Yeah. Because there's so many cool things going on here. And if you throw them all together, it starts to make it feel overwhelming is not the right word, but it starts to, there's just so much that I almost feel like it starts to, they start to take away from each other because your mind's just going all over the place. You know what I mean? So yeah, really, I would, for instance, these images where there's not a lot of, you're not adding a lot of filters and textures and things, or it's more just landscape photography. I would put all of that together, I think, and maybe you could add a few textured nature composite things in between, and you could make it work in an interesting way. But yeah, that's what I think. This image, for sure. That image there with the pond, I immediately look at and think straighten horizon. But maybe that's just a side. Maybe I can't see it big. Do you see that?
Let me see if I can. Oh, there you go.
I love that.
I love it too. It's so good.
Yeah, the edit's beautiful. The light, it's just a great way, you know, light highlights, shadows hide, and the light is,
I know,
really emphasizing the flower and sort of making all of the other textures be just a subtle background. It's just really
lovely. And I love the texture here a lot. And just the shapes of just, I mean, everything was perfectly like in place.
Flower so perfectly.
I know, it's so perfect. I love it. Great job, Kirsty. Okay, awesome. Let me get out of this, and then we got a couple more images in here. Beautiful colors.
That's it. That looks like a beach that I want to go to. Is that, are those shells? Is that like sea glass? There's a sea glass beach. I can't tell if that's it. It's too dark.
It might be just like rocks.
Yeah. But yeah, lovely sunset sky. I would straighten horizon on that one. And part of me almost wants to lift shadows ever so slightly in the foreground. You know,
a little bit.
And then this is another example of where we talked about the horizon, where you sort of have to pick and emphasize what's my story here.
Right.
So I almost think in this image, because these rocks are so in the shadows, you can't really see them. And most of the image is something that's in the shadows, right? That I find that I'm looking at it and struggling and want to see it in more detail, that I almost wonder if you changed your composition so that only a third of it was this, and then 2/3 of it were the sky.
Yeah, I'm immediately drawn to this sunset here. So if almost like that was more of the focus and you chopped up a little bit of the bottom.
Oh, yeah. Let's see here, my camera. Let's see. How do I switch my video? Hold on one second.
Okay. All right. Thanks for patiently waiting, you guys. Robzilla had some good comments. So photo weaving, and what if the spine served as a mediator or border for two images? That's a good suggestion. Oh yes, thank you. I know I need to charge my my laptop. I got my charger right here ready.
Okay, I need to just go to my laptop camera, and how is that not working? If I just take this out, will it come on? Okay. Oh, there you go. Yep. Okay.
Cool.
I think my camera overheated.
Oh no.
Not good. So there we go.
Awesome. Thank you. Thanks for waiting, you guys. Always,
sorry about that.
This whole streaming thing it's all new territory for all of us.
Exactly.
But yeah, we were looking through a couple more images here, and maybe we'll then get back to your stuff. But look at this cool image right here. Wow.
Yeah. I mean, that almost has like a double
I know.
exposure feel to it. I love the colors, and I'm just impressed with all the different, the creativity in all of these is really, really cool. I would just say, and I mean, I think I remember, did I look on your website? And I think she's 16 years old.
Oh, she is? Oh,
I looked at
that's
her
amazing.
website, and that's what it said. Yeah, and so I'm just super impressed at such a young age, what a vision that you have. And I would just say continue to really hone in on that. And the more, because you have so many different elements going on. Yeah, I just think just hone it in and really start to, the more you shoot and experiment, you'll figure out what direction you want to go in, because that's like, you have so many cool things going on here, but it's just so many different directions, right?
Yeah,
so
there's a lot of different avenues.
Exactly, which is really cool, and that's how you learn and grow. And so I encourage you to just continue to do that. Yeah, but I would love to see you break it into more cohesive groups, I guess.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, thank you so much, Kirsty, for submitting your portfolio. That was awesome. And we enjoyed looking through your work. And yeah, you guys keep submitting those portfolios, because, you know, you might get them reviewed in a future stream. But thank you guys. All right, we'll get back to your screen, Summer. That's cool.
Let me.
Perfect.
Share screen.
Sweet.
Nope, the whole screen. I should know how to use Zoom by now. It's so funny. I've been using Zoom for years with my online workshop, and people used to not really know how to use it. Now everyone does. Thank you, pandemic. Okay, so how much time do we have?
So we have about like 4 minutes. If you wanted to wrap up anything, and then we can kind of just do a little quick overview of what you covered today and what we'll be doing tomorrow.
Okay, cool. Yeah, let's see. Should I start on a new image, or should I go back to this image when they were talking about?
Oh yeah, that'd be great.
Redoing. Okay, because I will say, I'll do that really quickly.
Yeah, or even if you wanted to share kind of what you did on each image super quick, that'd be cool too.
Yeah, let's do that. Okay, so this was my original image, and I just did my standard edit. I'm emphasizing, sky colors. It's all about finding the right balance there. And then I did use the range mask, as you can see here, to sort of adjust you can see how that changes the color. Which is such a cool, and I feel like underused tool. So I did that, and then I opened it in Photoshop and I cloned these people out. And I also used the healing tool because I had some from my port. I had a little bit of dark circles there in the two corners.
Yes.
So yeah, that in Photoshop, I also showed you how to use content aware fill, which is my favorite. It's super easy.
Yes.
Sometimes. So we did that. And then what is next? What image did we do next? Gosh, it's crazy how we only worked on 3 images.
I know. Then you did the one of your kids jumping on the trampoline.
So we did this one. We talked about tone curve and colors and cropping and perspective and light. And we really did a little bit of a deep dive into the color grading tool, which is amazing. So excited about that.
Cool.
And then we talked about portraits.
Yes.
And lighting, and again.
Yeah, you kind of covered it all.
Yeah. Well,
It was great.
It's kind of how it is. You kind of have to do all of it a little bit in one image. You know what I mean? I use all of the tools most of the time.
No, and that's great.
One thing we did talk about, which we will tomorrow, is show you the new neural filters.
Oh yeah, the neural filters in Photoshop. Oh, I'm so excited for that.
The portrait one is amazing.
Okay. So. Cool. Well, thank you guys so much for tuning in to day one with Summer, for this photo editing stream. We will have day 2 tomorrow. Make sure to stick around because there's a lot going on today, as we saw earlier today when we saw the schedule. But yeah, thank you guys so much for tuning in, and we will see you tomorrow.
Yes.
Bye.
Thank you guys. See ya.